It was early fall, and my friends and I planned a camping trip for the weekend. We did this mainly because it was still warm out and school was about to be back in session, so we wanted to do one last thing before we had to go back. There were 4 of us in total, 2 people to a tent, so it wouldn't be cluttered. I was with my friend Sean, who I've been friends with for some time now, since the 4th grade. We are now about to be juniors in high school. It was a bit of a drive, so we took turns driving. When we got there, we had already scouted a nice spot by the river, and the benefit was, it was very fresh water too, so it was good for drinking, so we would have water constantly. We got to the site around 4 p.m., so we decided to unpack, and then we would start making dinner at dusk. The sun started setting, and we started cooking dinner. We occasionally heard noises coming from the forest, but we were in the wild and have been many times, so nothing spooked us about it. Until one sound did. It was almost like a metallic sound hitting something, and it echoed throughout the forest in front of us. We all looked at each other, puzzled. We were tired, so we decided to get some sleep, because we were going to have a big hike the next morning. When we woke up, our entire campsite was destroyed, but we all questioned, if this is real, how did we not hear anything be moved at all? My friend Sean said something like, "I heard that metallic sound last night again." We all looked at him, eyes wide. "You did?" we asked. He said it was coming from the woods again, and got closer and closer until it was at our tent. My heart sank. We decided it was best just to get some coffee in us and hit the hike. We did just that. Once we returned, once again, our site was destroyed, but there was a note this time, reading, "I know you heard me last night." We all got the chills reading that. We all mutually agreed it was best to pack up and leave right then and there. Once we had been packed up, we heard the noise again, and we made a mad dash for the car. Once we sped off, out came a man out of the forest in all black, behind us, waving. I was just glad to be out of there. We never returned to that campsite ever again. Camping has always been one of my favorite things to do. I love camping mainly because I get away from life's troubles and I just simply relax and enjoy nature and all it has to offer. I normally go alone, but this time I brought my girlfriend with me. She loves camping too, so we both have that in common, which is great, since it is one of the main things I like doing or talking about. This camping trip would be different, not because she was coming with me, but where we were going. It was stupid of me to pick a place neither of us have ever been, but because I wanted a new place, that is what we went with. Thinking back, this was really dumb. When we got to the campsite, it was actually very pretty, I'll admit. We got settled in, and we started to do couple things, and get a bit freaky. It was really fun to do, mainly because no one would bother us, or so we thought. A few minutes into us doing stuff, we heard rustling in the leaves near our tent. I stopped and asked my girlfriend if she heard it too. She softly nodded her head yes. We heard the noises for a few more minutes, then it stopped and drifted into the night. We eventually fell asleep and we woke up to nothing more than an aching back because of the way we slept. I asked my girlfriend if she remembered the sounds from last night, and she said yes. It creeped me out. We decided we would hang out for the day and enjoy the weather because it was a beautiful 65 degrees out in fall, so that was very nice to have. We got bored, so we had hiking gear, so we decided since it was nice out, we should do that instead of just sitting around. Despite us being tired, we went on our way on the trail near our site. It was a decently sized trail too, so it was definitely a walk for sure. When we got back, we were tired, so we took a small nap in the tent. We both woke up to the sound of leaves near our tent moving. We thought it was an animal, but when I yelled out hello, I got a hello back, from a man's voice. I whispered to my girlfriend to stay here in the tent. When I went outside, there was no one there. It was daylight, so we would have seen someone out there. That's when I heard it again, deeper in the woods, very clearly someone retreating into the forest. I went back to the tent and my girlfriend was still confused just as much as I was. We decided to end early and pack up because even if that was an animal, we didn't want to deal with it. I'm just happy neither of us got hurt or what could have happened if we stayed. This is my own story. I was a Boy Scout for a long time. I ended my journey at Life Scout just before Eagle, which is the last rank. I love Scouts because of the camping trips. That's honestly the only reason I stayed, was because the trips we went on were so awesome. We went on a camping trip every year, either late August or early September. It was a camping trip, but mainly a biking one. We went on other trips throughout the year as well, but this one easily was my favorite, and I'm sad I can't do it anymore because I'm no longer a Boy Scout. One year we had this trip, and the weather seemed to be great for the trip in late August. We didn't expect anything to happen, however something did. We did a bike trip around the island as part of it. We would loop the island, seeing everything the island had to offer. When we were back from our trip around the island, where our camping site was, we all hung out there. My dad was a scout leader, so he went on these trips as well. Me, my brother, and my dad all shared a tent. It was a decently sized tent too, so there was plenty of room. However, we had to pitch the tent on a decline, since there were no open spots besides that. When we finished setting it up, it began to rain a bit. Nothing much, just a drizzle, so we had fun just hanging out with other scouts, but it started to get dark out, and we all began to worry. The rain got harder and harder. I'm sure it even hailed at one point for a short minute. There, if I remember correctly. That's when we said screw it and went to bed. It was around 8 p.m., so we had just finished dinner too. Perfect timing. We all went to sleep, and then when I woke up, I was soaked. The top of the tent had a cover on it, so it couldn't be from that. Then I remembered we were on a decline, and it was still raining. Then it hit me. I quickly grabbed my phone, and it was wet too. I turned my flashlight on, and the entire floor of the tent is flooded. I began to hear the same thing happening to other people's tents, not just ours. We all got up, and we were all a bit annoyed about this. There was not much we could do, honestly. We stuck the night out, wet and cold and miserable. When the sun came up, it was a nice warm sun too, so it felt great. But everyone's belongings were covered in water, so we boarded the first ferry back home. Despite this happening, I still love this trip because of the memory it still holds in my heart. This happened to me a few years ago. I used to work at Wendy's back in 2018. I was off one day. I was getting out of school and decided to get some food. I went to my work and was just hanging out with my coworkers. I hung out with them and talked because they were not too busy at all, and so we chatted about life and things coworkers talk about. When it was time for me to leave, I said goodbye to everyone and I was walking to my car. Everything was normal until I heard this high-pitched screech sounding coming to the right, and as I looked, I saw two cars slow down. One pulls over and the other stops completely. Then I heard a bang noise. It didn't hit me until the third. It was a gunshot. I had heard gunshots before, but not like these. I felt my heart stop as I made this realization. I couldn't move. As the car sped off, and one of the other occupants of the other car got out, I started to run to my car as fast as I possibly could. My heart was still pounding. I couldn't have just heard that, or seen that. Could I have? As I sped out of the parking lot, I heard more shots. I sped off like others, and it was total chaos. Nothing about the law was present then at that moment. Thankfully, a police officer was nearby and heard the shots, and that was that. Later that day, they had found out it was a rivalry between two gangs, which gangs for the area I was in made no sense, or it was very rare for two gangs that were rivals to be this close to one another, especially the distance they would have to go. No one was hurt, including the gang members, but multiple arrests were made. I'm thankful nothing actually happened to anyone, and I'm glad I wasn't directly part of the crossfire. I used to work at Wendy's. I worked there for about 4.5 years. I loved the job, the people I worked with, and the job itself was relatively easy. One day, it was really raining outside and thunder here and there with the occasional lightning strike. That's when the power went out. We unplugged everything, and I made a sign for the drive-thru saying we lost power so people would know. Another thing to add is our doors are all electronic based, so when we lose power, we are all stuck inside. That's when we heard a bang come from the bathroom in the front. We all were like, was that another lightning strike? But it could not have been. It was much too quiet for that. but much too quiet for anything out of the norm. None of us built up the courage to go see what it was, so my manager went inside instead to see what the problem actually was. When he came back, however, the expression on his face said it all. It was like he had seen a ghost or something. He just quietly told us to grab anything that could be used as a weapon. That's when we heard the loudest scream from the bathroom I'd ever heard. My heart was racing a mile a minute. I couldn't catch my breath. That was when, magically, our power came back, and we heard the bathroom door swing open. For a second, we heard nothing but things starting back up in the kitchen. Then we heard him sprinting, and before we knew it, we were face to face with the man, dressed in all black, with a cleaver in his right hand. He charged us, and then my manager had a gun for emergencies only in the office. He grabbed it and shot the man in the arm. The man screamed in pain and agony, and so we called the cops while we had the chance. They arrested him after that and took him to the hospital to deal with his gunshot wound. This would be the last time anything like this ever happened to us. I'm glad no one was hurt other than the man himself. Otherwise, I'm happy it ended. Last year, I was working at my local Wendy's part-time, since I was still in high school at this point, and just needed a job to pay for my car really, and gas of course. It was a nice part of town too, so our location was up to date in terms of looks. One day, I was working and a man came into the dining room. He was about 6'4" and had a very well-trimmed beard, and looked to be in his mid-20s. He came up to me and asked if he had seen his friend. He was worried about him. He described his friend to me, and I said I hadn't, and he looked sad, and I could tell that his friend meant something to this guy. After that, I told him I would call the police and report a missing person. The cop showed up a few minutes later, telling the cops what happened.
I used to work at McDonald's near my house. I mainly worked the drive-thru since no one else wanted to do it. I only worked a few days a week since I was still in school. One day, when I was working, a man came up to place his order. He seemed like he had rarely been to a McDonald's because he was looking at the menu, so I decided to patiently wait for him to approach. When he did, he gave his order and then waited for his food to be cooked. When I gave him the food, he said you forgot the nuggets, which I did, and I said sorry. He seemed annoyed by the mistake, but it happens. About a week or two later, the man came in again and ordered the same thing, only this time he said something in a low tone. If you forget my nuggets this time, I will kill you. Had I heard him right? I could understand being annoyed by me forgetting a part of the order, but not to that extent. He carried on like nothing happened. I did not forget his food this time, and he smiled at me, and that was that. Fast forward to 2 days later. It was late at night, and I just got off my shift. I had just got out of the shower when I heard a bang on the window coming from the direction of my bedroom. Now I should say this, I live alone in my apartment on the second floor, so there should be no one at the window, at this hour anyway, or any time. It was around 11 p.m. or so, and I got dressed and quietly went into my room, only to see a silhouette of a man at the window outside. I couldn't believe my eyes. I immediately thought of the guy from work. My heart sank as I made the realization. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I locked myself in the bathroom that I just took my shower in. That's when I heard the glass to the bedroom window slide open. I heard the man enter my room, calling out my name. Of course, I wore a name tag, so it made sense, but how did he know where I lived? By the time I tried to rationalize this, however, I heard his footsteps stop outside the bathroom. He said, "I know you're in there. Come out. We need to talk." I sat there hoping he would just go away, but he wouldn't. Then I heard the sirens in the distance, and he swore, under his breath, and ran off and left through the window. I heard the police yell, "Freeze," and I was happy once more. I saw the man get handcuffed, and the police saw me standing in my bedroom window, and they asked if I was alright. I replied, "Yes, I'm fine," and waved. A few days later, I quit due to this, because I did not want another incident to happen like this ever again. I'm thankful he never got into the bathroom. or else who knows what would have happened. Working at McDonald's is one that is good for while you're still in school, because it pays and you do minimal work. One day it was raining in the fall, so it was really dead. A few customers would come in here and there, but nothing much more than that. One guy who looked to be in his mid-20s came up to the counter and placed an order. And then he said, "Have you noticed anything outside?" "I didn't," I said. He said to look over his right shoulder, and standing there, in the rain, was a man in all black just looking at us. I asked if he knew him. He said no, and that he already called the cops because that man tried to stab me. But I'm playing cool so he doesn't suspect I'm telling you this. He asked me to pretend like we were having fun and said to laugh, so I did. After he got his food, he sat down closest to the door in case of something happening. The man outside was still standing there. When the cops arrived, he still stood there like he didn't even notice them. The cops went out to talk with him, and they arrested him. The police came back and said that he did this before, and this wasn't the first time he's ever done this to someone. The man who was stabbed, or tried to get stabbed, was okay, since the blade never hit anything vital. The man said I saved his life. I didn't do much, honestly, but I told him no problem. He shook my hand, and he went on his way. 2 years later, I was in my economics class when I saw that man I helped out at my job. We caught up, and we are now friends to this day. I still wonder what would have happened if I wasn't playing along with the guy's rules. What would have happened? Would I have gotten hurt? Would he have gotten in trouble and hurt as well? Who knows? I'm just glad nothing ever did come of it.
This happened when I was 20 years old. I'm now 28 and have had time to reflect on what happened. This all started in my junior year of college. I was not the biggest social media guy at the time, so I didn't have many followers. I followed my close friends, that was pretty much it. One day I was hanging out with my friends, and all of a sudden my phone buzzed, meaning I got a notification. It was a follow request from a random account I had never seen before. I didn't think much about it, so I just put my phone on silent and continued to hang out with my friends. About an hour later, one of the friends I was hanging out with, when I got the notification, also got a notification on his phone. It was the same account. Now we were thinking it had to be someone we knew, but we didn't. We shrugged it off and went into my friend's pool. When we got out, we checked our phones, and not just my friend and I had them. We all did, the following request. But that wasn't all. Several chat requests per person were shown, meaning this person really wanted to talk to us for some reason. So we decided to try off and go inside. Several chat requests per person were shown, meaning this person really wanted to talk to us for some reason. So we decided to dry off and go inside. We all felt amused by this for some reason, but that all changed once we opened the chats. Everyone had similar chats involving texts, pictures, and videos, but some were different. Almost like they had been cut and then the different parts were sent to other people. It was us inside the house and the pool, with the words, "I see you," and "Let me come play with you guys. Looks fun in there." This sent shivers down our spines. We checked all the windows and put up the shades so no one could look inside. Then that's when we heard it. The knock on the front door upstairs. We froze, waiting for the knocking to go away, but it wouldn't. This went on for some time, but eventually it did stop and we didn't get any notifications after that. And we all blocked the user and reported it to Instagram. I just know if we had accepted the chat or even said anything, or let whoever that was in, it would not have been good. When I was 16, I was always on my phone. My time was mostly spent on an app called Instagram. I had a pretty decent following with 400 followers at the time. I don't know why, but I didn't think people liked me very much. One day, I was home watching a movie after school, browsing my Instagram feed, when I got a chat request from a user I did not recognize. I said, "Why not?" and I accepted. I started by saying hello to be friendly at least, and they responded hello back, followed by, "How are you doing?" I said nothing much, watching a movie. They waited a second to respond after seeing what I wrote. Then, That's when it got weird. They said, "Oh, Harry Potter. I love that film." That's when I saw a silhouette of a man standing in front of the window. I froze. He started to wave gently at me. I couldn't move at all. I looked back at my phone. Another chat said, "You gonna let me in?" I didn't know how to respond. That's when I heard the door handle shaking from the man trying to enter by himself. He started banging on the door violently and yelling to let him in. I panicked. I checked the chat to see if I had mentioned the movie. I hadn't. That's when I bluffed and said, "No, I'm actually watching The Dark Knight." They responded with a photo this time. It was a photo of me watching the movie in my own living room. I turned around quickly to see if they were still there, and it was getting dark out, so the sun had pretty much set at that point. I called 911 and ran to my room. While I was on the call with 911, I heard the door in my living room swing open and slam against the wall. I heard him say something very quietly, almost like he was talking to someone else. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He moved into the kitchen making all kinds of noises, opening cabinets. That's when I heard the police sirens. I was relieved, and I heard the man slam the door shut. That would be the last time I accepted random chats from people, and that's when Instagram added the private feature to make your account private. And so I did, and have not had anything happen since.